Hey there, welcome back to White River Homestead. I'm Shy, and as you can see, I'm out here in the garden. This is going to be our end of July / beginning of August garden tour. And I just want to preface this video by saying that when I started this YouTube channel this spring, my brain didn't comprehend all of the different garden tasks that go into a season. On top of that, trying to film YouTube material. So I had plans to put videos out on a weekly basis. That has not happened yet, but at least here's some garden tours for you. And I know my plan is to do much better on these weekly videos, but for now, enjoy our end of July, beginning of August garden tour. I find the best place to start is right here at the entrance. You can see this incredible, amazing, beautiful arch trellis just covered in melons. This is one of my favorite spots in the garden because it is just majestic. Check it out. So here on the corner, this Moon and Stars melon has taken over and is kind of coming out of the bed, but we're allowing it. It's not a big deal. It has plenty of leaves and foliage. We've only had one Moon and Stars melon so far, and I accidentally knocked it off while trying to tie it up. So I don't know if we'll end up with another one or not, but look at that. You can see up here we have a Kajari melon hanging. Here's another Kajari melon up here. You can see it right there. The Kajari melons are doing wonderful through here. I'd say we probably have at least a dozen melons on here that are thriving. These butternut squashes are also doing incredible. This is the one that I'm thinking is going to be eaten this Friday. Look at that beauty. This was also supposed to be a bush variety butternut squash, but that's the butternut squash going all the way over the trellis down to this side, and then it kind of disappears down into the abyss. And there's another baby cantaloupe. We harvested our first cantaloupe the other night, and it was delicious. It was absolutely incredible. But look how huge these ones are. Wow. I mean, there's 3 more over there. There's one hanging up right there. Right there. So many cantaloupes in here. These cantaloupe seeds were given to me by my grandmother last year. She bought a cantaloupe locally, said, hey, I'm going to save these seeds, see what happens. So she gave them to me, and I planted them this year. I had no clue what would happen. I didn't know what to expect, and I am pleasantly surprised because these cantaloupes are growing wonderfully. And the one we cut open last night, it was so delicious. As we round the corner here, you'll see this Tomatillo plant that has taken over. In our previous garden tours, you'll notice there was a black velvet nasturtium there, but I took it out because this Tomatillo was taking it over. This is our Roma tomato plant that we do not prune, but it's also kind of taken over as well. You can see some ripening tomatoes down there. You'll notice in this tour a lot of ripe tomatoes because as soon as we get done with this, I'm going to be harvesting those. These are our dragon tongue bush beans. And I'm going to be harvesting these to make for dinner on Friday night as well with that squash. This is a dragon tongue bush bean. You eat it just like you would a green bean. They're actually great to eat raw. I plan on just kind of boiling or sauteing them and cooking them up like I would do any other regular green bean. I just think they look really neat. Here we have Lair's hot pepper bed. You can see all the peppers doing wonderfully down there. Several of them have little baby peppers. This Mexican sunflower has kind of taken off and it's surrounding this sunflower in the middle. This whole bed I just think is beautiful. Lair did a wonderful job. But would you look at that? Wow. Those are some of my favorite sunflowers. We have more up there. And then these sunflowers have to be at least 15 feet tall. They're a good 5 feet at least over our 8-foot fence there. Look at those. Ah, they're gorgeous. I love all of these tall sunflowers. Look at that. We've got several zinnias in here, some regular green beans, our basil. Unfortunately, something started eating our Aunt Molly's ground cherries, so they look really sad and pathetic. You can see all of the empty casings on the ground. That wasn't us. Somebody else enjoyed it. But as long as they're happy, I'm okay with it. We grew Aunt Molly's ground cherries for the first time this year. I had heard about them on a lot of different YouTube channels, and I was like, we'll give them a try. Oh my gosh, you guys. Ground cherries are so sweet. They call them garden candy, and I can see why, because they're absolutely incredible. If you didn't grow ground cherries and you never have before, definitely add that to your must-buy list for next year, because they're so good. We just need to figure out how to keep whatever pest is eating them out next year. To the other side of that bed, we have some more Mexican sunflowers here. These things are probably one of my favorite new flowers. I will definitely be growing those again next year. And then we come to our first tomato wall. Like I said, you can see all the different red tomatoes that are happening here. I am going to be picking all of these here shortly. Look at the size of this monster. This is an Amish paste, and I'm pretty sure it's 2 or 3 tomatoes that grew together, but it's not cat-faced on the bottom at all. But I mean, it's the size of my hand. That thing's huge. I'm really excited for these. These are Paul Robeson's. I think they're supposed to be kind of a purple color. I need to verify that. I know they're supposed to have a smoky flavor. So I don't know if I'm going to pick them yet or not, because I'm not sure if they're close to being ready. But yeah, this is our first tomato wall. You can see that's outgrowed the wall. This one's growing into the sunflowers, and we're just going to let the sunflowers support it. But I'm absolutely 100% happy with this tomato wall. We'll go ahead and walk back here. First thing you'll notice is a lot of dead, hanging, droopy, sad plants. So there's 4 cucumber plants in here. A lot of them, actually all of them, are starting to look kind of sad, but there's still quite a few cucumbers that it's producing. So we're just gonna let it keep going until it dies on its own. This is probably the neatest thing I've seen in the garden this year. I call them my twin cucumbers, or my Gemini cucumbers, because they actually share one stem, and I had never seen that before. These are our Boston pickling cucumbers, and when I say they are prolific, that's an understatement. They are so prolific. These are our rogue nasturtiums, volunteers from last year. Aren't they beautiful? Nasturtiums just wow me. They really do. I'm getting ready to, once these cucumbers die out in the next probably week or 2, I'm going to clean up this bed in here, even the nasturtiums, and I'm going to start planting some fall crops, like some carrots and kohlrabi and different root vegetables. So that's my plan for this bed whenever these cucumbers decide that they're done making cucumbers. But I mean, they're still several. Oop, look at this ladybug. Peekaboo. Oh, would you look at that beauty? I love seeing ladybugs in the garden. If you weren't aware, ladybugs are a great bug to have in the garden because they eat aphids. They eat a lot of aphids. So a lot of people will actually buy ladybugs online in bulk quantities. And so I'm excited that I've seen at least a handful this year, if not more. I'm just hoping they continue to reproduce and take care of any aphids that I may have. If you remember, this was our garlic bed. We pulled the garlic out and we threw a bunch of different a bunch of different flower seeds in here. And we are slowly watching all of them bloom. We are struggling with crabgrass. If you have any crabgrass remedies, I would love to know them because they're driving me insane. And next to that bed, we have 4 more cucumber plants on this trellis. And these are our Marketmore 76 cucumbers. They're going to be a slicer cucumber. And it's doing pretty well. It took a lot longer to get going than the other one, so I think it'll last quite a bit longer. You can also see a rogue nasturtium in there. Those seeds just kind of reseed themselves. But would you look at this beauty? I love seeing cucumber vines cover a trellis. So this is a really good example of why I use a trellis like this. Because imagine if all of these vines, all of them, grew along the ground. Imagine having to dig through all that, figure out where your cucumbers are. Imagine the pests that would be able to get to them. Do I have pest problems on these? Well, of course. But I have a lot less pest problems than I probably would if they grew along the ground. So if you have anything that you're growing that has a vining type pattern, try to grow it on a trellis. See what happens. I enjoy it. So right here, you will notice we have a tomato plant, 2 tomato plants actually, growing right there and right here. And they're growing out of straw bales. Literally all we did was put these 2 straw bales here, put a little bit of compost on top, plant these tomato plants, see what would happen. They struggled in the beginning. It took quite a bit to get them going. But we fertilized it with some compost from Comfrey compost fertilizer and just kind of made sure they stayed hydrated. And we have a beautiful black creme growing over here. So we came up with this idea because the place that our local farmers market's at, they have a community garden and they grow in straw bales. So we thought, hey, we have some extra straw bales. Let's see if we can grow these extra tomato plants. Worst thing that happens is they don't end up growing. And oh well. Best thing that happens is we get new tomatoes and we can show people you can grow in straw bales. So at this point, I haven't determined whether I'm giving it a thumbs up or a thumbs down or what. But stay tuned because we're definitely going to talk about how this ends up in the end. So next to that tomato plant, we are back in the main garden, and this is the back of the garden. These are our black turtle beans. Never grown these before. This is the first year for them, but they are a dry bean. So they just remain on the vine until it all dries up. Once it's dry, you'll pick them, shell them, and then we will have dry beans for the season. Next to that, we have our pumpkins. And we just grow 1 plant just to decorate with, to have family members be able to decorate with. So we only need a handful, but this thing's doing wonderfully. We have Jacoby Little pumpkins back there. Over here, more butternut squash. This was the one that we intentionally planted and had plans to grow here. So it's interesting to see, if you notice the ones earlier that we grew vertically, they were really long. These ones are grown on the ground, and it's more short and stout. So I just think that's kind of interesting to pay attention to how things grow based on how you have them. And there's one more thing out here I'm going to show you because I think this is the neatest thing. So we thought this was a weed. I mean, technically it is a weed. But these are wild ground cherries. Wild tomatillos. One of those two. Wild ground cherries, no, I don't know. I can't remember, but they're one of those two. But this literally just popped up. Wild. And I think that's the neatest thing. You can also see a couple more pumpkins back here. And last but not least back here, we have this. And this is Fancy. And we call her Fancy because she's a fancy gourd. Lair actually got her, I don't know if it was at the flea market or the farmer's market, I mean. I'm not sure where he got her from, but we thought we'd try to grow and see what happens. It took a little while to get acclimated, but now it's growing a lot better. So I'm hoping we get some cool, funky fall-time gourds off of there. We are almost done with this part of the garden. But I just need to show you this last tomato wall because it just melts my heart right now. This thing has so many tomatoes that I'm getting ready to harvest. These are probably what I'm most excited about. These are Dr. Witchy's tomatoes. And I think this one is going to be our first sandwich tomato of the year. Oh yeah. And this thing has to be a 2-pound tomato. I can't wait to weigh it. But it has to be a 2-pound tomato. These things are massive. Absolutely massive. Overgrowing the trellis. Wow. We do have quite a few other things in the garden. Oh, I forgot about this. One more thing to show you. Check this out. So these are bell peppers. We all know what bell peppers look like. Just hiding down in there. But what's so fancy about these ones is they're purple. Lilac bell peppers. Boom. How cool is that? Now they do turn to an ugly gray oniony type color when you cook them, but before you cook them, they're awfully beautiful. So that is pretty much where we are at for the 2021 August gardening season. A lot has changed since we did the last garden tour. I'm going to go through, harvest all these tomatoes, pick several of the bugs that I saw while I was recording this, and do a little bit more work before I head in for the night. I hope you're all having a wonderful gardening season, and I can't wait to do more videos here soon. As always, cultivate originality.